Hey everyone, and welcome. Let's talk about that one thing that, tends to bring a little bit of stress to pretty much every business at the end of the year: annual GST filing. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if we could make it simple, accurate, and maybe, just maybe, stress-free? Today, we're going to dive into how TallyPrime completely changes the game for this complex task. So, how does it actually pull this off? Let's get into it.
First things first, let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room, the massive headache that annual GST filing can be.
Just hearing that phrase, annual GST, does it make your shoulders tense up a little bit?
Yeah, I thought so.
You've been diligently managing your GSTR 1 and 3B filings all year long, but now it's time for the big one, the final consolidation, and that's where the real pressure starts to build.
This probably looks a little too familiar, right? For so many businesses, the year-end means trying to consolidate literally thousands of individual transactions, and every single one of those is a potential landmine, a tiny typo, a small miscalculation, anything that could cause compliance issues later on. Trying to get this right by hand, it's a huge and, frankly, a very risky task. Okay, but what if you had an assistant that was specifically designed to handle this exact problem? Let's take a look at how TallyPrime slices right through that complexity and gives you total clarity right when you need it most.
So what is TallyPrime, really? Well, think of it as your own personal GST specialist. It's software that's been built from the ground up to do one thing incredibly well: handle all the heavy lifting of GST computation so you can focus on being accurate, not on being anxious.
All right, let's pop the hood and see how this thing actually works its magic. We're going to walk through the whole process, right from the very first setup step all the way to that final, beautiful report.
The real secret to a stress-free year-end is all in the setup, and Tally makes this a super simple one-time thing. You just enable GST, pop in your GSTIN, define your tax rates for your items once, and that's it. Seriously. From that moment on, you just go about your day recording transactions like you normally would.
And this is where the magic really kicks in. Because you did that simple one-time setup, you never have to manually calculate taxes on a voucher ever again. Tally takes care of all the CGST and SGST calculations for you automatically, every single time. This automation is the real game changer. It gets rid of the single biggest source of errors: us, humans, entering data by hand.
So, what about that huge mountain of transactions we were talking about earlier? How does Tally handle that? Well, it channels everything into one incredibly powerful report, the GSTR9. This is where all your data for the entire year comes together to give you one complete, clean, and accurate picture.
The second you open this report, you get this amazing, crystal clear summary. It tells you, hey, out of 1,500 transactions, 1,485 are good to go. But the real power move here: it has already isolated the 15 transactions that have some kind of issue. It's literally found the needle in the haystack for you.
Now, just think about that for a second. Instead of you having to manually hunt through 1,500 different entries hoping to spot an error, Tally has proactively found and flagged the exact 15 that need a second look. The entire painful search process is just gone.
And fixing them is just as easy. You just click on that uncertain transactions number. Tally shows you exactly what's wrong. Maybe a GSTIN is missing or the tax info is off. You fix it right there, on that screen, and boom, the voucher automatically gets moved over to the included list. Done. Problem solved. It's a perfect closed loop.
And it doesn't stop there. Tally's focus on automation takes care of another really tedious job: creating the HSN/SAC summary. Instead of you having to compile all this by hand, Tally just generates it for you, automatically, complete with all the taxable values and tax amounts. It's another huge chunk of time handed right back to you.
All right, now for the final crucial step: making absolutely sure that what's in your books perfectly matches what's on the government's GST portal. This is the moment that guarantees true airtight compliance.
So to make sure everything is perfect, Tally lets you compare your books right against the data on the GST portal, side by side. This isn't just a quick check. This is how you spot any little differences. Maybe you recorded a transaction that never got filed or vice versa. It makes that final reconciliation process incredibly fast and totally foolproof.
So, after going through this super streamlined process of setup, error correction, and reconciliation, what's the end result? What do you actually get?
You get this 100% peace of mind. It's that feeling of confidence that comes from knowing your numbers are right, they're reconciled, and you're fully compliant. It turns what could be weeks of stress into a smooth, controlled, and honestly, pretty quick process.
And really, it all boils down to this single, powerful idea from the source material. With TallyPrime, annual GST filing means zero stress. That is the real promise, right there.
Because at the very end of this entire process, after TallyPrime has done all the hard work for you, all that's left for you to do is press one single button to export the data. Then you file your return. All of that complexity simplified into a single click. It really is that easy.
And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? When your compliance becomes this simple and this fast, what could you do with all that time and all that mental energy that you get back? Something to think about.